Hello and welcome to another episode of Cloud Security Podcast with Virtual Coffee with Ashish. Today, I have a few interesting topics to talk about. I'm not going to be talking too technical today, but I do want to share what's it like to be a cloud security engineer. What's it like to be in a day's life of a cloud security engineer? At the same time, what does it take? Do you need to be a certificate holder or a master's holder? To demystify all of this for me, I have Nick McLaren. I hope I said the name correctly. And before I go into this, I do want to give a shout out to our this week's sponsor, which is ByteCheck. Let me just quickly let them in. 1 second.
Hello, my name is Anthony Young with ByteCheck. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the Cloud Security Podcast with the one and only Ashish. Real experience, knowledge, and stories from the world's leading cloud security folks. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Amazon Music, Castbox, and YouTube. Weekly live interviews with cloud security leaders and practitioners from around the globe. Available on all your favorite platforms. Listen on cloudsecuritypodcast.tv. This episode.
Oh.
Hello, my name is Anthony Young with ByteCheck. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the Cloud Security Podcast with the one and only Ashish. Real experience, knowledge, and stories from the world's leading cloud security folks. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Amazon Music, Castbox, and YouTube. Weekly live interviews with cloud security leaders and practitioners from around the globe. Available on all your favorite platforms. Listen on cloudsecuritypodcast.tv. This episode is sponsored by ByteCheck. The days of manual audit requests, over. Buried in compliance emails, over. Build, manage, and assess your cybersecurity program as well as complete your SOC 2 audit faster, all from a single platform. www.bytecheck.com. Let's make compliance suck less. Now that's a ByteCheck.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the sponsorship as well, ByteCheck. And without further ado, let me just bring the guest of the honor. Hey, Nick, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Ashish. How you doing today?
Good, man. Good. So a quick shout out to folks who are already on the live stream, and also shout out to the people who are on Clubhouse. We all appreciate that you're spending time on this and coming to share your journey. So it'll be great. So the way I was going to run this was as the kind of questions come in on the live stream, we'll answer them. And I've got about a lot of people in the Clubhouse room as well. And as we kind of go through questions, if they have any questions, I'll just ask them to raise their hand. I'll just bring them on stage so they can ask their question as well with you. All right. So this is going to be a fun one. We're live streaming everywhere these days, so that'll be awesome. All right. For people who may not know you, right? How do you what was your journey, or what's like? I'm just going to start from the very beginning. What's your journey like, man? Where do you start? Where are you at? Let's just start with there first, because I'm going to cover your history bit by bit. So where are you at the moment? What are you doing?
So right now I'm a cloud security engineer, as you all may know right now at ByteCheck.
Yeah.
Pretty early on in my career, I would say. In my opinion, this is really just the tip of the iceberg. Trying to take it to a higher level as far as possibly an architect job or something like that. So really, this is just a start. As far as my background, I went to Georgia State University. I actually graduated in December of 2019 with a CIS degree. And that was pretty much what I took out into the job market, and got my start with that.
Oh, right. Okay. And I'm curious. So you obviously have a degree as well, and certificates as well, or just degrees?
Actually, I have one degree and I have 3 certifications.
You have 3 certifications. Which ones?
I have the CYSA through CompTIA, that's a cybersecurity analyst, and the solutions architect through Amazon Web Services, and as well as the security specialty.
Right. Because tell me about this, right? And I kind of asked this question on LinkedIn the other day, where the question was more around: does one need a degree? Does one need a master's degree or a certification? Which camp do you sit in? Because considering you have both, you have a master's degree, or sorry, you're pursuing a master's degree,
Right,
and
right.
yeah, and you are obviously you had a bachelor's. So let's just take it from a bachelor's perspective. You have a bachelor's and you have a certification. Like, do you sit in a particular camp? Would you have picked one over the other for your
Uh,
cloud security role?
I'm one of those people that I sit in on both sides. The reason I do is because personally, as a minority, in order to get, in some cases, even a phone call, you have to check all boxes, especially if you're a minority and you don't have the experience that a lot of these jobs are asking for. So my goal coming out of undergrad was I need to find a way to check all the boxes outside of experience to even get a chance to show them that I have technical aptitude to do the job that they're advertising at that time. So to answer your question, I think you really need to be on both sides. You need to have the education because going to college is something where you have an opportunity to learn how to be more of a professional. You're also in the ecosystem where you're around young professionals who are aspiring to do the same thing as you. So it puts you in a place where you can learn how to be more professional and you can continue to persevere through a lot of dips and curves, really, where school can be tough and you could be trying to establish yourself or establish a network, and it'll be really difficult. So you'll have people there that are going through the same thing that can continue to drive you to that goal. So I think it's important to go to school to kind of back up that professional growth to add into the certifications that shows your technical aptitude.
It's really interesting. So, considering you already had a degree, what made you go for a master's?
Well, again, it was more so about checking all the boxes because I came out of school. Actually, the first job that I had, I was an internal auditor, and I thought to myself, okay, hey, let me go get a certification, and now I can go be a security engineer. And I quickly realized that was not the case. I had to find a way to continue, again, like I said, check the boxes. So I said, hey, let me join a master's program so that I can continue to build my professional side and also learn things that I can learn things in a quicker pace and in an environment where I can learn from experts. So that was something that I told myself I needed because, again, it was all about getting better visibility coming from that resume because you're not able to, especially with COVID now, that made things extremely difficult. Something that I really pride myself on is actually going in, speaking well to somebody, and showing them my personal side. And that's something that I didn't have the chance to do once COVID came around. So you really had to make sure your resume was strong because a lot of jobs went remote. And now everyone's looking for a superstar, and they actually have access to it now because they have access now because you can hire someone from the other side of the world that has all the certs, has all the experience. So it leaves a person that doesn't have that experience kind of, you're really stuck. So you have to find a way to, again, check all the boxes. So that was really my motivation behind going to get a master's degree.
Oh, dude, the whole COVID thing is really interesting, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of people had questions as well. I can already see a lot of people here commenting on this as well. And for people who are listening on the Clubhouse thing, I'll recommend tapping that hand icon on the bottom right so I can bring you guys on stage when we're ready to take questions over here. But then, dude, the whole COVID thing, right? I definitely want to say I commend you for taking the master's path. While because a lot of other people were like, "Oh my God," doubling down in the fact that I just want to do I just want to get a job. I don't really care how. They don't have a plan, but seems like you kind of had like a good plan. So was there
Right.
like some guidance that you got from it, some mentorship, or were you just like some online forum? How'd you get to? Because I think I'm pretty sure a lot of people like, yeah, I do these, but I don't land anywhere, or like I'm trying to get into the mindset of space where I get a lot of questions on Clubhouse, and I'm trying to help people get into cloud security. The questions more about I've got a certificate, but I can't get a job.
Hmm.
I've got
Right.
this, but I can't get a job. Like, so was there anything extra that you had to do beyond the certificate, or was just like you did the certificate, like next thing, like, where is this Nick guy? I need to find him on LinkedIn.
Right. So one of the biggest realizations that I came to, and this was around July of last year, I realized that my degree and the certifications would not be enough. And that was a tough realization that I had to really swallow that and say, okay, well, I have to find a way to now network. I'm gonna have to reach out. I'm gonna have to talk to people on LinkedIn that I've never met before and essentially say, hey, I'm really passionate about cloud security. I'm really passionate about my career. Is there any way that you can help me by giving me any tips? Can you link me with someone that can potentially tell me where a potential opening is? What is there anything you could possibly do for me? That was probably the best thing that I could have did. Starting a network. I actually spoke to someone in my network that had told me, for a person with no experience that just has the certifications, he said that, and this is no knock on recruiters, he said that speaking to recruiters and trying to just apply, you will never get anywhere with that, with no experience. Once you build your resume and you finally have 5 to 7 years of experience, you've maybe worked at a Fortune 500 company, you've done some really impressive things. At that point, yeah, absolutely, you can just apply, because now you're one of those unicorns. You're one of those
Yeah.
people that have that experience. But if you don't have that, don't even waste your time with that, because that's not going to get you anywhere. The only thing that's truly going to separate you as a person with no experience and just a ton of passion and a couple of different certifications and maybe a college degree, the only thing that'll separate you from the millions of people that are trying to apply for these jobs is establishing a network. You're trying to be a security professional. So one of the most important things in security is trust. So if you could find a way to reach out to a CISO or reach out to a potential manager or director of information security, this will put you in an environment where you can speak to that person, get to know them, and they're more inclined to, look past the fact that you don't have experience, because experience matters in this field. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
That's going to make you a lot better once you start the job. But luckily today with Amazon, you have the ability to do a lot of different labs, and you have a lot of different how-to guides. So that will allow you, as a person with no experience, to speed up and catch up to a good enough level of aptitude to where you can actually manage someone's infrastructure. So again, the main point is networking. That is the only way a person with no experience is going to get one of these jobs. Because again, the company that you're getting hired to, they're more than likely trusting you to handle, who knows, maybe over 1,000 different instances, 100 different users, and you're going to be the one that they're going to call on. So it's going to be important that you have a good connection with the people that you're associated with to do well at that job.
That's really interesting. And dude, commend you for this. I'm definitely gonna dig into a bit more of your networking approach, because I thought that was really unique as well. I'm pretty sure people who are listening in can definitely learn from it. I did want to tell you, and I think this is my personal experience as a CISO, I almost try and tell people that whether it's a challenge of immigration, that you're under appropriate visa, or whatever it may be, I think those are not big problems if you have the right people around you. What does become a problem is like especially for a cybersecurity kind of a role, right? You're going to be someone who's probably going to be responsible for, how do I secure these assets that a company has? Like that could be their main software. That's what they make money with, and you can't expect someone with no experience to just jump in and, hey man, can you secure this? Like, or hey girl, can you secure this? And they're like, yeah, no problem. 2 minutes later, you're like, oh my God, where have I gotten myself stuck into? And I feel like that kind of conversation has not had enough times in this industry. So to your point about recruiters, so again, no dig at recruiters, but if you simply apply with no experience, your chances are automatically quite low, because you're trying to get into an environment which you need to secure, but you have no idea about. And as an employer, sometimes they may not even have the budget to go for a newer person. But I love the networking angle, because I think that's when you kind of increase your chances of getting a job. So tell me, how did you approach networking? Because you know how it's like, obviously now with the COVID world, it's even more, I guess, how do you do networking in a COVID world when there's no conferences or no meetups? So what were you doing before COVID, and what are you doing now?
Before COVID, the main thing that I tried to focus on was I searched on LinkedIn, and I searched for managers, I searched for CISOs, I searched for directors, and the main thing I would try to focus on was, do they have active accounts? If they have active accounts, I can focus on the type of things that they post on, so that when I finally do reach out, I have something to where I can kind of get you to nibble on a little bit, so we have a better conversation, so that it's not me simply coming to you, hey, I need a job, can you help me out? You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people aren't going to respond to that. And a lot of people that are in these executive positions, the emails are flooded with in-mail and people doing exactly what I'm trying to do. So I had to find a way to stand out. So that was the main thing, finding a way to look at what they post and apply it in that message and see if they'll could possibly contact me back. And luckily, I was successful with that, and someone was able to find me someone that was advertising the job at the time. So that worked out really well. As far as networking now, since I've started this job, I just try to again do things like this to help other people get into the position that I'm in, because it's a great field to be in. We all know about it, and ultimately, it's about spreading the wealth. Continue to help the next generation of security professionals get into this environment, because it's tough. But if we continue to try to have a all hands on deck approach, I think that we can really turn things around and close that gap, because the talent is here. It's absolutely here.
Yeah,
Those people
100%.
just need visibility. That's really all it comes down to, and need a
Yeah.
shot. That's really it.
And to your point, visibility of talent comes from networking. That's kind of
Yeah.
where we're kind of bridging towards. So I'm going to come to the present a bit. So now you are a cloud security engineer, and I'm sure I get a lot of questions about this, and I'm sure a lot of people in Clubhouse will tap hand icon for this, or even a follow up. But what does a day in a cloud security engineer look like for people who don't know about this? Just like this job which is at a distance, someone else is doing it. So one of the questions I was getting is like, what do you do in a day-to-day scenario?
So on a day-to-day scenario, luckily I'm at a SaaS company. So a lot of the main threat surface comes from the application itself. So really making sure the application is secure within our containers, making sure our Elastic Beanstalk setup is good, as well as maintaining the patching on our instances. That's something that I keep my eye on every single day to try to knock down as many vulnerabilities as I can, as well as our guard duty and WAF. So a lot of different AWS services in config as well, and Lambda functions. So in essence, you build a wall, and you're kind of building a castle. And the idea is, I'm sitting here and waiting to see if someone's going to attack. I have to make sure everything is set up so that I can possibly, if you are able to get through my gate, I can remediate whatever possibly you were able to make happen. So that's really the idea. Continue to just monitor things on a day-to-day basis, because as a security professional, you understand that you're never truly 100% secure. So you have to always find ways to innovate the different guardrails that you set up. So that's really what I sit and focus on a day-to-day basis. If we actually do have any security incidents, obviously going ahead and remediating those as soon as possible. And if not, again, like I said, just continue to just modify my guardrails and making them stronger and stronger and stronger. Because once a system gets compromised, you can never really get it back to the original state. So
that's right.
That's really what I focus on.
That's pretty interesting. And do you reckon the certification that you did, or the bachelor's that you did, was that in any way helpful, or was that more mentorship more helpful in kind of going what's the path? To your point, when you do an AWS certification, you get to know about all these hundreds of certificates. And by the way, I'm sure this is applicable for Azure and Google Cloud as well. So I don't think it's just AWS. Do you find that was helpful in setting you in the right direction? Or it was more like once you're in the job and some guidance was required, and that kind of really helped you kind of shape how should the castle be built, I guess, for lack of a better example?
I would definitely say that the certifications help 1,000% over just trying to get one of these jobs. Again, it's about visibility. So with having the certification, they're more than likely going to believe more in your expertise. And that's really going to matter a lot. As far as when you come on the job, the certification is not going to help you at that point. What will help you at that point is the labs that AWS provides, and I'm sure Azure and Google Cloud platform provide them as well. Those will help you prepare to be better on a day-to-day basis with your job. So if you're a person, and as well as reading white papers, as you're using these services on AWS, it's really important to understand them inside and out, not only because you're going to be using them on a day-to-day basis. And this brings up the second part of your question, where is the college help me with this? You may have to face customers. You may be on the process, or you may be on the process team that actually talks to customers and helps them onboard their account onto your platform or your application. So it's going to be important for you to be able to speak well, know how to have rapport with customers, and that's something that I feel that I got really strong with in college. Doing a ton of different presentations. That's something that Georgia State hammer home within their business program, was doing presentations. I feel like I did maybe 30 different presentations within the last semester of school, but it made me a lot more comfortable with speaking about topics that I study about or that I'm passionate about. So that's where school helps a lot in. It's more of the soft side. And again, being more professional, it gives you more of an opportunity just to have more like-minded people around, and mentorships, associations, places where you can make the process easier to find a job if you're around more people that are trying to do the same thing.
That's really interesting. So would you the soft skill part is an interesting one. Like, so what kind of soft skills does a cloud security engineer? Because, and I'm pretty sure, like, you find a lot of online information about do this certification, do that certification, do this degree. Not many people talk about soft skills. So what kind of soft skills do you reckon? Like you mentioned presentation already, but are there other soft skills that you reckon that people should be working on as well when preparing for this? Because I feel like soft skill would have some component in networking as well, which you mentioned that don't just email someone your resume and say, hey, get me a job. Like
Right.
that's a soft skill, right?
Right.
So
Right.
any other soft skill that comes to your mind when for which help your job, which people can be working on, which they may have in other jobs that they're doing already, but they can use again, I guess over here, like customer service or something.
Right. One of the main things as far as soft skills within your job as a security professional, you may be one of the only people there that has to kind of make the information that you deal with every day that's really sophisticated. You have to find a way to make that really easily digestible to someone that isn't technically savvy. So again, it goes back to having a way to build rapport with people, and also finding a way to make things easily relatable to other people. So that's really a good skill that's going to help you a lot once you get on the job, because you're going to deal with maybe a CFO that needs to understand how much are these services costing us on a monthly basis, and you need to find a way to tell them how it's happening without making it super technical, so they can continue to understand what you're talking about. As far as for networking, be authentic. Have to be authentic. Everybody has a story. You have to tell them what your story is and be passionate about it. And if you're not, why would they message back? Why would they want to invest in you if you're not passionate about yourself? So that's just how I look at it. You got to be authentic. You got to try to show some type of charisma, and that's another thing that I try to bring into my role, is having charisma. I'm behind the computer every day, but still try to have a smile, try to be excited about what you're doing, because it's cool. We do a really cool job if you're in a cloud security role and you have a really big responsibility, and to try to ease the pain of that, keep a smile, have some charisma, be loose, and enjoy what you're doing. So
That's pretty awesome. And I love what you mentioned as well. The charisma part is interesting, and because it made me remember another question that I was asked in Clubhouse the other day, where someone mentioned they're shy, and I mean, once they're comfortable, they can probably start talking as well. So it's really interesting. To your point, you can be charismatic in both. It's something as simple as smiling doesn't require talking much. You just need to smile, and that's still a good way to do this. And make other people comfortable, because you don't want to be, I guess, a bearer of bad news, I guess, for lack of a better word. But it's pretty interesting. Now, to your point, so if those soft skills, so I'm hearing this that, okay, you need soft skills, certification is important, mentorship is important as well. From a networking perspective, you mentioned that's important, but another layer I feel, which is kind of not spoken about, is there like a preference to cloud that you kind of have, where people should look for AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud? Like, I don't know if you're within your peers or something, if you're seeing almost like a pattern that people should focus more on, because it seems like everyone has an AWS certificate these days. Like if you open LinkedIn, a lot of people get overwhelmed by the number of certificates you see people have. Like every day someone's posting about GCP certificates or GC certificates for the cool kids, or Azure certificates or AWS certificates. So it feels like there's a lot of people doing that. I'm assuming there's that many opportunities and all these people get jobs. That's why people are happy. Or what's your take on this? Which cloud provider?
Personally, my main reason on choosing AWS was that it was the biggest cloud provider. So I figured, hey, if I get a certification for the biggest cloud provider, I'm giving myself the best chance, or I'm putting myself in the pool of the most jobs out there. So I don't necessarily have a preference on AWS over Google Cloud. I've come to realize, as I've gotten deeper into AWS, it takes a lot of services to do one task. And I was actually talking to AJ the other day, and he was telling me about Azure. It's a lot more consolidated. And I was like, man, I might have to dive into Azure because, man, to do one task on AWS, I may have to have 4 or 5 different tabs open. And that can definitely be troublesome if you're not, paying attention, or you lose track of what exactly you're going over. So to have a more consolidated approach, that would be great. So if Azure is truly like that, I may be an Azure guy at some point. Who knows?
Oh, there you go. I was gonna switch around a bit. I've got a question coming in from Kevin Jr. Foster Senior. Sorry, Kevin J. Foster Senior. Sorry, my bad. I'm gonna have him. Hey, Kevin, you're on the stage. If you have a question for Nick over here, man, feel free to introduce yourself as well.
Actually, not a question, I have a comment. Thanks for bringing me on stage, and thanks for hello to everybody in the audience. I started out my journey in cybersecurity around 2000, and worked up until 2010. Was all tech, the help desk stuff, the system administration stuff like that. Got into security after around 2010. I did not go the college route. I went the trade school route. This was during a time when there was not a lot of the emphasis on security. I worked for a major hospital in Delaware, and that hospital only had one person as a security person. So, my approach was I just, did a lot of informing others about security in general. And everyone there knew, that if there was a security team, that I wanted to be on it. And I think that, and going forward, that's actually what happened. So I made my progression from system administration to security. And I think now, looking at the field now, especially in cloud, because I've been contemplating between Azure and AWS right before COVID. That's what I was studying, AWS. And I think part of the issue here is the job market itself. You'll see hiring managers or companies hiring for people, and they're asking for maybe a degree or several certifications and 5 to 7 years experience in cloud security, and then they want this for a junior role or an entry level role, and they're asking for like CISSP and things like that just for entry level roles. And I think that the recruiting and hiring managers, or maybe not necessarily the hiring managers, but HR has kind of hyped up the certifications, not necessarily the education, because the education is what it is, but the certification route and the need to have those things as filters. And, you have people who are switching careers. They're going for getting Security Plus, which I advocate for. And then they're talking about getting CISSP. I'm like, well, you don't even have enough, the other requirements to meet the goal for CISSP. Yeah. So, I always equate that to, like, it's like saying if you could just get out the academy, fresh out the academy, and you say you want to be the police chief. It's like, well, wait a minute. You haven't been a cop yet. You haven't been a detective, a sergeant, a captain. No, you will go right to police chief. So I think that cloud security is an ever-evolving field. I think that's the next biggest field. I think identity and access management will be super important because a lot of the endpoint security will shift to identity and access management, because that's going to be the number one way that you manage your cloud instances. Yep. So I think if a person wants to get started in that field, the key thing to focus on, in my opinion, would be identity and access management. And one more thing, and I'm going to be quiet because I can go on for a long time. We're talking about the different soft skills you have. Soft skills are super important. I think the one skill that you should also have is the skill of writing. I don't know how many times I've had to write emails or proposals to a CISO, or a member of the board may ask a question, and you may get that, hey, Kevin, can you answer this question? Those kinds of things. So writing is important. Speaking is important. Knowing how to communicate with management, C-levels, or people who are not technical, I think that's really important. So that's what I would bring to the table, and I am done speaking. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for coming in, Kevin. I'll move you back to the audience, but that was a really good comment, man. All right. What's your thoughts on this, Nate?
Man, he hit the nail on the head. But I think it's truly a disconnection from the highest level up all the way down to the recruiter. Because typically, and I actually in my days of networking and hunting down a job, I actually met a high level manager, and he didn't have a job for me, but I continued to talk to him just to learn, more about the industry. I think that's also an important thing as well. Know your industry. But what I learned from him was, as a manager, they don't have time to truly tell recruiters, hey, if they have a certified ethical hacker, that's fine, but they can also have a CYSA, because in essence, they're kind of the same test. One just has a more, what does it have actually? Actual simulations on there, right? But they're the same test. But if a manager only goes to them and says, hey, I'm looking for a CEH, that's it, nothing else, and they need to have 5 years experience, and they need to have a master's degree. Well, you just shut out so many different people that actually have the skills to do what you're looking for, but they may not have that certification, or they may have learned through tryhackme.com or something like that. They may have went on cloudguru.com and took a course. That same person can have the same skill level as a person that has the certified ethical hacker and the degree and stuff like that. They can have that, and that's truly the disconnection that's going on prior to even getting on a phone call with a prospective person trying to get a job. There's not enough information given to that recruiter so that they know how to truly vet that person that's trying to get the job. I had so many calls where I may have told them I had a CYSA, and they weren't impressed by that. And I said to myself, well, it's the Network Plus and the Security Plus added together. Then I went through simulations, and I also have a solutions architect. And I'm like, like, this shows technical aptitude. I went to school, I did everything. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, you don't have this. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I actually remember there was one time, maybe 2 months later, I said, man, I'm getting the slightest feeling some of these recruiters don't know what the CYSA is. So when I finally got a call again from a recruiter, this was for like an information specialist job, one of those jobs you have maybe 1 or 2 years of experience for. So I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah.
So I was on the call, and I told her about my experience, and told her about the certifications that I had, and again, wasn't really impressed. I can sense that. So then I asked. I said, hey, do you know what the CYSA is? And she said, no, I'm not familiar with it. So then it's like I finally woke up, and I said, wow, I've been talking to people for almost 3 months now, and they probably had no idea what my certification truly meant. So that's what it really comes down to. There's a huge disconnection between CISO down to manager, or CISO to director, to, hey, this is what I need. This is what I need to tell the recruiter. This is what I'm looking for. And finally, when it gets down to that person that doesn't match that particular profile, they can't get the job. Even though they may have the skills to do the job, they can't get it because you didn't match that perfect unicorn that they were looking for. So it's troublesome, and it has to change. But it takes an effort, again, from, like I said, all the way from the top up, all the way down to the recruiters, because I think recruiters would benefit from being more technical and having an understanding of a bit of cloud, a bit of how systems are set up and servers and stuff, so that when you have that conversation with someone that's getting the job, you have a way better conversation, and you have a way better ability to vet that person, see if they can actually do the job.
That's an interesting point.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I thanks so much for this as well, man. I think Kevin laid a very interesting point about soft skills, but also mentioned the fact that some hiring managers can also probably help in this as well. Like expecting someone to just have a CISSP straight out of uni and putting that pressure on people, like, oh my God, CISSP, 5 years experience. And by the way, it's not really a practical exam. It's like it's like a theoretical exam. So in theory, you should know. I mean, I haven't done it because I don't believe in it, but that's me. I'm sure. No hate against people who have done it. I think it's a great course. It's wide enough that covers a lot of areas, but expecting someone who's a junior to do that is probably not a great thing. I've got another question coming in actually from the seat, as you seem to get a lot of agreements on our live stream on YouTube as well. Vineet said he agrees. I agree with Nicholas, it happens. And as I bring Asif on, networking is awesome. You got fire emojis from Corey as well. Hey, Asif, I've got you on stage, man. Can you introduce yourself and ask your question or share a feedback?
Hey, yeah, sure. Hey, how's it going? Ashish, it's good to stay with you again. So my name is Asif. I'm actually a cybersecurity specialist. I specialize mostly in management consulting. So I help companies across different spectrum of different industries and things like that build their cybersecurity programs. I've been doing this my entire career. My specialty is like in incident response and digital forensics. So just a quick thing that I wanted to sort of ask in terms of like hiring, right? One of the key things that we're going through right now is our recruiters, right, are not putting, good candidates in front of us. What they're doing is they're looking for certifications, right? And then we're getting candidates that have hundreds of certifications, maybe 20 certifications. However, all of their knowledge is steeped in theory. So a lot of the certifications they have are just like a theoretical exams that they'll take, right? So my question is that in your experiences, right, especially now since we're also moving into the cloud, right? Like I'm just a FYI. So I actually, beginning of my career, I had only one certificate. I was able to sort of move up into management role because of like the sheer fact that I got some good exposure and I got some awareness from people that were in charge, right? So I am now having to go back and get all my certificates now. So building off of that, the question that I have for you is that what strategies have you seen worked, right, in terms of going about recruiting the right way? Right? Like, is this something that us as the hiring manager should be more involved with? Should we train the recruiters, or like, what have you seen work, and what are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, okay. So the first thing is I'm not necessarily in agreement with the candidates that are strong in theory that they aren't actually good candidates. Because, for instance, I was one of those people, and I felt that if I was strong in theory, all I needed was opportunity to gain that experience. With a lot of these jobs, for instance, incident response, you can only really truly get good at that from enterprise experience, where you can actually deal with customer data. And you can't get that anywhere unless you actually get the job. So if that person doesn't have the job, they're never going to actually be good with experience or can tell you about a couple of different incidents that they were able to remediate. They have to be given that chance. So that's the first thing. As far as recruiters, yeah, absolutely. Hiring managers have to work with recruiters to make it more easy for them to digest what you're looking for. Because if you just put out certifications, that's what they're going to bring you back. They're going to bring you back people that have the certifications. But if you tell them, hey, bring me back people that have particular certifications, I believe there's one called Blue Team 1, where you actually do a incident response over a 24-hour period. That's actually a really good certification. And if you were to get a potential person that had that person would show you the experience by having that particular cert. So certs are good. And for people that don't have the experience, that's all they have to lean on. So if we spend our time to go get the certifications and study and show the passion and get really strong at theory, all we need is the opportunity to finally apply that theory to the actual real customer data. And will we be 100% perfect that first time? Probably not. But there was once a point that when you, as a hiring manager, where maybe you did a technical job at one point, you weren't really strong with something when you first started the job. So it takes an opportunity for someone to get there and be really strong and have 10 different incidents that they could have told you about and stuff like that. It has to start from somewhere. So again, it has to be an approach from hiring managers going to recruiters and telling them, hey, I'm a bit flexible with this. If they have a practical cert where they actually had to apply that knowledge, yeah, bring that person in front of me and let me see if I can vet that person a bit more. I think that would be a bit more helpful rather than, again, just asking for a particular cert. And again, you will just see people that have really strong theory. So maybe more of asking for certs that have practical skills. You talked about incident response. So there's a lot of different certifications that actually dive into actually doing something practical. I think that would help a lot as hiring managers if you're looking for someone that can literally just hit the ground running and they don't need any help. So yeah, absolutely, finding practical certs would be my first thing for you. And of course, meeting with recruiters, getting tied in with them as well.
Oh yes, getting better recruiters, I guess. Wait, so did we answer your question? By the way, I just wanted a quick shout out to people who are in the room as well. That Asif runs the room with someone else about breaking into cybersecurity every week. So I'll let him do a shout out for that. But did we answer your question? Did you have a follow up as well, Asif?
Yeah, he definitely answered my question. I kind of want to give a quick reference of what the couple. I think I spoke about this the last time we met when we were in the room, Ashish.
Yeah.
We recently hired 2 people. One person coming straight out of college. One person who was self-trained. I think he was he was actually worked in sanitation. So he worked in sanitation, and he was able to present to me when I interviewed him the succession of certifications. Right, he started at the A+, really base level, Network Plus, Security Plus, went into the CCNA Blue Team. I forget which one it was called. But then he was able to sort of he didn't have any experience, by the way, but I hired him, and I hired him as a level 2 analyst as well, because he was able to really demonstrate and speak to me. A, he was able to show me that he knew what he was talking about, and B, he spoke very eloquently, right? He was able to take concepts and break it down and explain them to me in layman's terms. So right. I think Ashish and both of you guys actually brought up that topic of being able to report and being able to articulate things in cybersecurity. If you can do that, that really will take you forward. And yeah, I do have Ashish, a lot of people in this room actually do join us, but every single Monday around 10:30 Eastern time, we do host a room. Generally, it's been in the BCA Coffee House right
yes.
now.
Shout out to the Black Cybersecurity Association.
Most definitely, shout out to them. They host us, and we essentially sort of talk to everyone, give tips where we can, how to break into the industry, how to level up in the industry, how to make lateral movements throughout the industry, move to different positions and things like that. So if you guys follow me or follow Ashish, follow anyone that's that comes up on stage, most likely they will also be in our rooms. So we'll see you guys there.
All right, awesome.
Ashish, thank you for having me on stage.
No problem, man. Thanks, Asif. And moving back to the audience. That's pretty awesome, man. I think a really interesting point that you mentioned about the incident response kind of conversations as well. So thanks for sharing that, Asif. I've got someone over here on my live stream, Mr. Vineet. He's got a comment saying, one time a recruiter asked me, do you know about SIEM? I said, yes, I know about Splunk, ES, and Phantom. The recruiter said, no, we don't. We need someone with experience with SIEM. So it's not Splunk. I don't know what to say to that, but yeah, we're totally with you on that one, man. Do you have any thoughts on that, Nick?
Again, it's the disconnection, and it has to stop. It's going to always, that will always allow the gap to be present. I think the guy that just called in, he had a really good example of someone to hire without experience. Is that person with I believe a CCNA, what is that, a Cisco cert, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, CCNA is a Cisco cert, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really technical exam. So if you're able to pass that, then yeah, absolutely, you're going to pretty much be able to hit the ground running, because that's a very extensive exam to take. But yeah, as far as dealing with stuff like that with recruiters, it really just comes down to, again, like I said, I think recruiters have to find a way to be more technical and have a better understanding of what these tools are, what they do. And I know that kind of turns them, well, hey, am I turning into a security professional? No, it just makes you better at your job so that you put better security professionals into those jobs. So that's it. It really just comes down to that. We got to find a way to fix it. Has to happen. And it takes work from everybody.
Awesome. Yeah, 100%, man. And I've got Anthony as well. Wow. Nick, get him. I've got my final question, but before we jump into the final question, I've got one more person coming on stage. I think it's Johnny. I'll bring him on stage as well quickly for his question. And he's there, I think. Hey, Johnny. Welcome, man. Feel free to ask your question and introduce yourself as well.
Thank you very much for bringing me up on the stage, and thank you guys, Ashish and Nick, for putting this room together. So my name is Johnny. For the last 6 years, I've been working in the cleared cybersecurity space. Essentially, I do network data analysis, threat hunting, and cyber threat intelligence sort of on a daily basis. I write up reports for our customers, and then I deliver those reports orally to the CISO or the director of threat management or whomever the customer point of contact is. got a few certs, CISSP, CASP, and Security Plus, and some others. But recently, I've been wanting to move towards the cloud. We don't use the cloud at my current workplace. So I think I may have to spread my wings a bit if I want to gain some more experience. Becoming a cloud security engineer is something that's on my radar. So recently, I took the AZ900. It's kind of a free cert that Microsoft was giving away if you attend a couple of courses. So I took that and passed it. Yesterday, I passed the AWS Solutions Architect Associate exam. And so I'm just kind of wondering, will I also need to obtain a security specialization for one of the clouds? Since I've already got one AWS cert, I'm thinking about doing AZ104 next. And so I'm kind of trying to figure out, do I need to do a security specialization if I want to apply to be a cloud security engineer? I get somewhat dismayed because I don't have a lot of cloud experience. However, I got a ton of cybersecurity experience, plus some of the cloud certs backing me. So I'm just kind of wondering, should I be worried about that? Should I just go ahead and apply if I see a cloud security engineer job, regardless if it says that they want you to have X number of years in a particular cloud environment and I don't have that? Should I just apply anyway and just, while I'm at the interview, or be able to speak technically while also being able to kind of break it down into layman's terms?
Great question, man. What do you think, Nick?
Well, my first question is, how old are you?
How old am I?
Yes.
Oh, he can't see you. Sorry, so he doesn't have a picture. Sorry.
Right.
I'm above 30.
Okay, so I can already say you already got a solutions architect and you have a ton of experience. So you would actually be one of those people that would be a unicorn in the cloud space. So in my opinion, do you need a security specialty certification? Absolutely not. Do you need a security specialty course? Absolutely. To get more familiar with the services. When it all boils down to it, you'll still be doing the same things that you were doing in an on-premise environment. It's just going to be a lot of different names and a lot of different services at the end of the day. But the actual work itself will be really similar. So for someone like you with an extensive background, extensive experience, I don't think you would necessarily need to go and take the test, to take the security specialty to validate that you know security, because you clearly know that with the experience that you have and the certifications that you already hold. So to get another one to show that you know it in cloud, I don't know if it really would outweigh your experience, because in reality, in cybersecurity, experience is really what outweighs everything, and you have all of that. So to show that you have some aptitude by having this solutions architect, I think that would be enough. And by taking a course from maybe a cloudguru.com, or I'm not sure if there's any, I'm not sure if Wiz Labs does courses as well. I know they have test packets and stuff like that, but if you can take a course to where you can digest a lot of short 8 to 10 minute videos on the services, go through a couple labs to be more familiar with how the actual service works, then I think you'd be fine. But the test, not so much, because the test is going to test you on a lot of that incident response and stuff that you already have went through. So you don't need to validate that. You just need to validate that you understand the services that AWS or Azure and Google Cloud Platform use. So that would be my advice.
It's a great answer, man. I want to add something else to this, Johnny, as well. I think it's a great answer from Nick. I was going to add, because I was in a similar state to what you were 7-8 years ago. I didn't want to go down the engineer path. I wanted to go down the architect path. And it 100% your experience, like Nick just nailed it there, that you'll be surprised that all the experience that you've had in cybersecurity would be definitely beneficial, because when you're walking into an interview, you already have the technical background. People may ask you questions about, how do I do encryption, or how do I do backups? You just need to know the services that needs to kind of, how you would use it is kind of where you're coming from. I'll say this as well, though. And this is kind of like almost like a caveat, and I'm keen to hear Nick's opinion on this as well. When you do a certificate from AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, what you're really talking about is, how do I use an AWS service for an ideal scenario? Like, Nick works for ByteCheck, you may work for somewhere else, but everyone's a bit of a snowflake, right? Not all services are applicable there. So having that ability to use or tap into that experience of yours and say, if I'm trying to solve an encryption problem, I might look at the cloud native path where, oh, does AWS already have a certificate or already have a service in this? If or
Mhm.
Azure does already have service in this, I'm going to use it. Sounds like a great idea because I'll be able to manage it. But if it's not there, then you use your experience from previous life. What product can I use for that? Would you agree to that, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I said I think that he would be really great in one of the cloud roles because he
Oh
has
yeah,
the knowledge of prior incidents. So once he learns the services, he'll be able to say, okay, I know I want to use guard duty, I want to use WAF, and I need to also maybe use a load balancer in order to protect this because he has the prior experience to drive how to choose which particular services should be used and how to leverage them. So that's, again, like I said, that's really what it comes down to. A lot of the AWS certs are scenario based. So how do I use that particular service in order to solve this problem? And he's already had a lot of scenarios. So all he has to really learn is the services, and he'll be great at it. So yep.
yeah, that's a journey. You're applying for those jobs. That's the answer for you.
You go
What about
for
that?
it, please.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
no problem, man. Thanks. I'm moving back to audience. Awesome. I am gonna. Oops, wrong button. I was gonna say, Nick, it's just been a really interesting conversation for me personally as well because I've had a lot of questions about this, and I've got a few people who've come in. I'm just gonna quickly cover the comments over here. Steve he's a Google evangelist. Very often, certs from AWS, GCP, Microsoft are really only important when you're working for those companies. Oh, actually, that's a good point. Or their partners, which requires those certs for employees. Oh my God, he is so true. Like having worked in the consulting side before, having a
No, I
certificate
haven't.
from Microsoft. Yeah. So, would you recommend? What do you think of this comment from Steve?
I think that's a huge point because, for instance, right now dealing with the application security, I still have to use open source tools. So you may deal with companies that AWS services in order to protect their environment, even though they're hosted on AWS. So, like you said, these certs really will benefit you extremely well if you're going to actually work for Amazon and you do business support for people that have AWS accounts, because then at that point you're going to pretty much primarily be talking about the services that AWS or Azure or Google Cloud provides. So absolutely, I think it really just helps you if you're trying to be an employee for those companies and makes you stronger if you're actually dealing with enterprise data. It makes you better with the services, but you still may have to branch out and use something that AWS didn't create or didn't buy yet. I'll say that because they obviously buy up a lot of tools. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I've got Vinny's. I'm gonna shout out to Vinny because he's did one of my cloud security courses. So shout out to him as well, man. So this is I'm gonna switch gears. I know we've been talking technical and blah. I feel like we kind of switch gears to something more fun. So I've got this final section of my of the interview, usually at the live stream. We talk about fun questions over here. I've got only 3 fun questions for you. So just to know the other side of Nick, what do you spend most time on when you're not working on cloud?
When I'm not working on cloud, I spend a lot of time in the gym. About maybe 7 years ago, yeah, I spent a lot of time in the gym, man. That's really in my opinion, my safe haven. Sitting in front of a computer every day for over 6 to 7 hours a day, possibly even 10 hours a day, it can be really draining. So to have somewhere where I can sit down and be in my own zone, it's really important. I actually dealt with weight issues when I was younger, so that really was my motivation into getting into the gym and trying to get my body right and get my focus at a higher level. So it's something I carried forward in my life. So that's something that I do for fun outside of cloud security.
That's awesome, man. I think you look pretty fit from what I can see. Though I'm going to tell the clubhouse people to kind of go on the live stream, which is on the profile, to kind of see what you look like. What is something that you're proud of but is not on your social media?
Man, something that I'm proud of that's not on my social media, and that's the thing about social media. I tell a lot of my peers, social media is a highlight reel. It's all the dunks, it's the alley-oops, it's the deep 3-point shots. It's not when you turn the ball over. It's not when you lose. So something that I'm really proud of is just the level of perseverance that I had to make it to the point that I'm at right now. I went through a lot of stuff through undergrad prior to making it to where I'm at now. I truly had to become more of a man prior to becoming a professional. So that was a step that I really don't talk about on social media that I'm really proud about. It's just stepping into more of being an actual man and stepping into being more of a professional after dealing with everything that I dealt with as far as setbacks and stuff like that.
You're definitely a professional, my friend. Like I think is because your recommendation came through one of your mentors as well. So clearly you're talking to the right people, doing the right things. That people are not just when you're in the room, but when you're not in the room as well, they're talking good things about you. So that's always a good sign, man. And final question: what's your favorite cuisine or restaurant that you can share?
Man,
you're doing gym, so I'm assuming chicken is the most important food, I guess.
Well, see, I was actually about to give you something I eat on the weekend.
Oh right, yeah, no, go for that, because I definitely
I've actually favorite cuisine. I haven't been down in a while because of COVID, but I really like Indian food a lot. There's a spot in Atlanta called Desta that's really great. So that's probably one of my favorite cuisines to dive into on a weekend, outside of the typical things like pizza and stuff that I can get on right down the street. But if I'm really trying to dine on something that's more exquisite, I'll definitely go into the Indian food for sure.
Oh, nice. And well, I've got a question here. I don't know if you will be able to help with this. I just wanted to do the last one. Good evening. I work in MSP on the service desk. I want to get into security. Where do I start? Some advice for that?
Yeah, I have plenty of advice for that. Well, here's the good thing. They won't turn you around once you have the certifications, because one of the main things they'll tell you is, hey, go get a help desk job. The great thing is you already did that. So having your certifications will basically just validate, like I said, that technical aptitude. So you have to find a way to take that theory that you're going to get from that test and do labs. Like I said, read a lot of white papers so that you can find ways to, like one of the callers said, put it in layman's terms so that the non-technical person can understand it, because that's who you're going to be speaking to when you talk to recruiters. They're not going to be super technical. So you're going to have to find a way to show that you're really good at what you do without being overbearing with the technology aspect. And if you can do that with your certs and already having service desk experience, I think you'll be really good to go.
Awesome. Hopefully that helps as well. And by the way, so that was kind of like the end of what I wanted to kind of bring into the table. You've been really giving in terms of the information, and I think we have got a lot of audience members, both in the live stream platforms on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitch, as well as Clubhouse as well. So where can people find you if they want to reach out to you and get some more of this amazing information that you've been sharing with everyone?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn as Nicholas Barrington McLaren. I believe if you just type in Nicholas McLaren, you might be able to find me on there. I'm also on Instagram as Rude Boy Nick. That's more of a personal thing. So if you want to see me in the gym or see me talking a little bit about cloud, you can check me out on there. But that's pretty much where I am for the most part. I don't have a huge social media blueprint as of right now, but I'm looking to build on that. So hopefully YouTube channels again, talking more about cloud security, and of course getting more people of minority status into this field. So definitely trying to again be on Clubhouse and things like that in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think I definitely want to do a room again with you on Clubhouse, because I'm pretty sure there'll be benefits over there as well, and hopefully some cloud security conversation as well. But thanks so much for coming in, man. For people who are tuning in live, both in Clubhouse and our live streams, we run these conversations every week, or similar conversations every week, just talking about cloud security. And I would definitely encourage you to reach out to Nick, who's putting himself out there to help others. So it's always good to kind of reach out, especially now you don't have an excuse that you don't have anyone to help you. So someone with experience is standing out there and saying, hey, I want to help you. So this is your moment. If you are waiting for Jesus to come and tell you, or whatever God to come and tell you that this is the moment, this is the moment. So just go out there and start reaching out without having the first response as get me a job and so this is my resume. So go out there, network, and hopefully people like Nick, myself, and others who've been here listening in would be able to kind of help you out. But I'm going to close the room on Clubhouse, and I'll definitely encourage people to kind of reach out to me or just check out the podcast. It's on www.cloudsecuritypodcast.tv, which is on the link on the profile on my Clubhouse. So adios to everyone who joined in from Clubhouse. Thank you so much for today, and I'll see you next week on the same time. And adios to people who are on our live streams. Thank you so much again, Nick, and thank you for everyone who tuned in from our live streams. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you all next week. Peace.